Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into the absolute firestorm surrounding the new Netflix documentary on Sean Diddy Combs. This is a project that's not only packed with explosive, never-before-seen footage, but has also kicked off a massive legal war.
So you gotta ask yourself, how did this even happen? How do you get these incredibly private, damaging recordings of a man who's literally on the brink of being arrested, and how do they become the main event in a documentary produced by his biggest rival? Let's get into the story of Sean Combs' The Reckoning.
Okay, so this right here, this is the audio that just blew everything wide open. It's Combs, secretly recorded, talking to his lawyer just 6 days before the feds arrested him. You can hear the panic in his voice, and these words, well, they became a central part of the documentary's argument against him.
All right, so let's get into it. The tapes that sparked the fire. Because these recordings, they aren't just a piece of evidence. They are the weapon at the very heart of this huge public and legal showdown.
And this timeline, wow, it really lays it all out, doesn't it? You can see how this whole thing snowballed. It all starts with producer 50 Cent announcing this project way back in 2023. Then you have the secret recordings, Diddy's actual conviction, and it all leads up to the documentary's release, which just dropped like a bomb into an already explosive situation.
Now, to really get what's going on with this documentary, you absolutely have to understand the guy pulling the strings behind the scenes, 50 Cent, and his long, bitter history with the man on the screen.
So on one side, you've got Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, a longtime adversary who has spent years publicly mocking and criticizing Combs. And on the other, you have the subject, Sean Combs himself. You see, this isn't just some documentary. To a lot of people, this looks like the final move in a long, long game of chess, a public checkmate.
And this is where the strategy just gets icy cold. When 50 Cent was asked if Diddy even knew his own private tapes were in the film, his response was calculated. The message is pretty clear. This was an ambush, and it was designed to catch Combs and his entire legal team completely off guard.
Okay, so let's get into the bombshells. We know about the tapes, we know about the rivalry, but what new stuff does this documentary actually drop on us? Because believe me, it goes way beyond that recent federal trial.
And first up is a huge one, the Biggie bombshell. The series goes back in time, digging into one of the darkest, most infamous chapters in all of music history, the murders of Tupac Shakur and the notorious B.I.G. And it tries to reframe Diddy's role, using some new claims to paint a much more sinister picture.
And just look at these claims. They are absolutely explosive. The documentary argues Diddy fanned the flames of the East Coast-West Coast rivalry. It includes testimony that alleges Combs offered $1 million for a hit, that he pushed Biggie to stay in L.A. right before he was killed, and then, and this is just jaw-dropping, that he billed Biggie's own family for the funeral.
But look, the film isn't just digging up old history. It also brings in some really new and frankly disturbing testimony from artists who were once deep inside Diddy's circle. A key voice here is Aubrey O'Day from the group Danity Kane.
And her story is rough. In a really emotional interview, she revisits an alleged sexual assault from back in 2005. It's all detailed in a witness affidavit that's read right there on camera. And while she says she can't remember the incident itself, she is crystal clear on one thing. She believes she was kicked out of her own successful group for refusing Combs' advances.
So all of this leads us right up to the most recent chapter in this saga, the federal trial. And if you followed it, you know the verdict left a lot of people scratching their heads. The documentary really tries to explain why.
Yeah, this is the big one, right? With all this evidence, all this testimony, why was Combs acquitted of the most serious charges? Well, for the very first time, 2 of the jurors from that trial actually go on camera to explain how they came to their decision, and what they say reveals this huge disconnect in the prosecution's case. All right, so first let's just get the verdict straight, because this is what confused so many people. Combs got acquitted of the big headline-grabbing charges. We're talking racketeering and sex trafficking. That's what the prosecution built their entire case around. He was only convicted on 2 much smaller prostitution-related counts.
And the jurors, they make it crystal clear they were absolutely horrified by some of the evidence, especially that infamous 2016 hotel footage of Combs assaulting Cassie Ventura. One juror even called it unforgivable. But here's the thing they explained. Being personally disgusted by something isn't the same thing as a legal conviction.
And this is really the key point. A juror literally says domestic violence wasn't one of the charges. So they saw what looked like horrific abuse, but that's not what they were asked to vote on. They had to measure all that evidence against the super specific legal definitions of racketeering and sex trafficking, and for them, it just didn't line up.
You can really see the jury's dilemma when you look at how they viewed the key witnesses. With Cassie, they saw a very complicated relationship that, in their eyes, just didn't meet the legal bar for trafficking. And with another key witness, Capricorn Clark, they found her testimony difficult to believe, mainly because she stayed in touch with Combs even after the alleged kidnapping.
And so here we are. All of this, the tapes, the rivalry, the confusing verdict, it all brings us right back to today, where there is an all-out war being waged between Diddy's camp and Netflix. And the lines have been drawn. Diddy's team fired off a cease and desist letter, calling the whole thing a shameful hit piece that uses stolen footage and is all driven by 50 Cent's personal vendetta. But Netflix shot right back. They're saying the footage was legally obtained, that this isn't some act of retribution, and that 50 Cent, yeah, he's an AP, but he doesn't have creative control.
And while this whole legal mess over the film is playing out, the reality on the ground is this. Sean Combs is currently serving a 50-month prison sentence. He is, however, planning to appeal.
So in the end, we're left with this really fundamental question. Is this documentary a vindictive hit piece cooked up by a rival? Or is it a necessary, painful, public reckoning for a man who seemed untouchable for so long? It really makes you think about who gets to tell a story, what we choose to believe, and ultimately, who's really in control of the narrative.